All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. We know that Heather's coming in from the Boulder area. Everyone else local? Do we have some people from afar? A little bit of a drive for you?
Springs.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for showing up. I'm Laura. I co-founded the Aspen Psychedelic Resource Center. We advocate for safe, informed psychedelic practice, and we do this by putting on things like this, events. And you can find us at aspenpsychedelic.org if you have any questions. And today, in conjunction with our Death Cafe, run by local end-of-life doula, Lisa, in the back of the room there, we've brought in Heather Lee, who has been in integrative mental health for about 3 decades and was actually one of the nation's very first psychedelic-assisted therapists above board. So her main focus is around cancer, life transitions, end of life, and I will let her take it from here.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here. I love to talk about what I do and this subject, and I'm always excited to be in a room full of people who are really open and excited to learn more about this or just to have conversations about this wonderful topic. So thank you all for coming, and just by a quick show of hands so I kind of can gauge my audience, how many of you feel like you have a lot of familiarity with the topic? Okay, about half, and the other half, raise your hand if you feel like, you're just kind of new to this and really curious.
I'm in between, do I get to vote?
That's excellent, that's good. So it seems like it's about a mix of both. So what I'm gonna do over the next sort of hour, and however it kind of goes, is do a little bit of education about some of the basics about psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. And I'm also gonna do some storytelling and share with you some really amazing and profound healings and experiences that I've had with clients doing this work. So that's a little, and then we're gonna have time for Q&A. So I'm really here to just engage in conversation. We're a nice size to have some, conversations and answer questions. So while I go through my presentation, I'm just kind of gonna be doing my thing. But if you've got questions or comments and they're just kind of burning and you wanna jump in, that's fine too, because sometimes it's just me talking and talking and talking, so it'd be lovely to mix that up with a little bit of conversation. So a little bit about who I am and how I come to be here, and my background for you to kind of understand a little more. So, as Laura said, I've been an integrative mental health professional for over 30 years. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been doing therapy in private practice and in different capacities for over 30 years. And I'm also one of the nation's very first certified psychedelic-assisted psychotherapists. So I did the training with the Integrative Psychiatry Institute. I was in the very first cohort. And after that, I went to Jamaica for 4 months and just led back-to-back psilocybin retreats doing a deep dive. And I had, been working with the medicine on my own since back in like the early 80s. So I grew up in New York. I came to college in Colorado, fell in with some fabulous hippie people who turned me on to psilocybin. And I immediately was like, this is not something we should be doing at night. This is something we need to be doing during the day, out in nature. And I would like have this little backpack filled with like magnifying glasses and art supplies and journals. And everybody was like, you haven't tripped till you've tripped with Heather. Because I was like a little field trip leader. But for me, it was immediately all about like the nature connection and spirituality. So I couldn't be more thrilled to be, 61 years old and now able to like say I'm a psychedelic assisted psychotherapist for a living. It's pretty cool. I also did training, I don't know how long ago now, it's probably 15 years ago. I went to the Harvard Mind-Body Medical Institute and did training in mind-body medicine. So that's a lot about stress physiology. And with that, I've been putting together wellness programs for such places as the One and Only, the Four Seasons, Golden Door. And I tell you this because I want you to see how all these crazy things I've done over the years now kind of all meld beautifully and are aligned for me to be doing retreats with this medicine, in addition to doing clinical work and one-on-one kinds of sessions. And I also spent, a chunk of my career working hospice and palliative care. So I have a really strong passion for the use of these medicines with people with cancer, end of life, existential distress. So that's a little bit about where I come from, which helps you get a little bit of an understanding about the work that I do now.
Therapist, if psilocybin is right for you, side effects may include elevated mood, decreased anxiety, enhanced creativity, and greater sense of inner peace.
Now, what drug can tell you that that's the side effects? Right? But it is true, the side effects of psilocybin are we become more pro-social, more pro-environmental, right? The side effects of this incredible healing ancient plant medicine is we become better people and better stewards of the planet. Now, if there is ever a time that we need that to be happening, it is here and now. So as Paul Stamets says, this is the revolution from the underground. There's a reason, perhaps, that psilocybin and that these psychedelic medicines are finding their way to us at this time in our history, because we really need some of this kind of soul healing. So how am I able to do what I do? So Proposition 122 decriminalized the possession and personal use of psilocybin for Coloradans 21 and over. So basically, Coloradans are allowed to grow, share, consume psychedelic mushrooms. So you can possess, you can consume, you can share, you can cultivate, and it is not against the law. It's totally legal. What is illegal is the exchange of money for the medicine. So any selling of psilocybin is verboten. But I can do what I do because what I'm doing is providing a service. I'm creating the safe container. It's like a harm reduction model. I'm providing the container for people to do their medicine. I pay my lawyer a lot of money to tell me exactly how to say that and do that. So what exactly is psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy? So psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy is using psychedelic substances, psilocybin, mushrooms, to aid the therapeutic process. This has been done, people have used this plant medicine in different cultures, different forms of it around the world for eons as part of healing, as part of accessing wisdom. And more research is showing how incredibly positive the effects are for depression, anxiety, trauma, PTSD, end of life. And the key thing though, you'll hear us talk a lot, those of us that work with this medicine, about set and setting. And also, again, what we're doing using with plant medicine is really exploring your inner landscape. So when we're doing this in a therapeutic capacity, and we're talking about large dose psilocybin experiences, it's not about looking at stuff out here and noticing that things are different and being like, oh wow, that looks so cool. You are behind eye shades with music that's curated by, most of the music now is curated by neuroscientists. I mean, it's a whole specialty, is the music that is made for this medicine work. So it is an inner exploration, and that is where you're accessing this deep, profound inner wisdom. And so what is set and setting? So set really refers to your mindset. So that is going into it, how safe do you feel? How well do you know the person? How well, what are your intentions? So it's more about your mindset. And the setting is the environment in which you're doing this. Are you when I work with people one-on-one, you're comfy, cozy, maybe in your bed or in a bed, you're in comfortable clothes, the room smells good, you feel really safe. So that's sort of your setting. And back in the day, like a bad trip could be because your set and setting were all off, right? Like your setting might be a concert where you're trying to navigate all this external stimuli, and you're walking past the cops and you're with a friend who's like freaking out, or, that's a lot of stuff you're navigating while you're in an altered state. It can be challenging. They're in the bad trip. There still are hard journeys on the medicine, but when you're in a controlled set and setting and you're doing this with the intention of therapy and really, seeking inner healing, a very different story. So this is just one of many graphs that I could have found for you. I mean, there is so much research going on right now showing all the positive benefits for anxiety, depression, grief, so many different things. So this little chart just kind of shows you, personal and meaningful, feeling that your psilocybin experience was personally meaningful. 70% of respondents say they felt that it was that it was spiritually significant. Almost 90% of people say that the experience was spiritually significant for them. People making positive behavior change, up there in the 90 percentile, and feeling like you have a greater sense of well-being and life satisfaction. Often this is from one macro journey, from one large dose, well-supported, well-integrated medicine experience. People are having really positive results. And this is one of my favorite slides to share, is the safety profile of psilocybin. So, just take a moment to take this in, please. Psilocybin is down here on the end. It has a higher safety profile than anything in your bar or medicine cabinet, hands down. Here's alcohol. Alcohol is a freaking neurotoxin that destroys people's lives and has really no redeeming benefits. I love my nice red wine, and I'm not a total naysayer here, but this is really a powerful chart. Psilocybin, we all got fed a lot of misinformation about the safety of these, again, plant medicine, little fungi. It's like safe. So I think it's really important, as I do this work, as I speak to people, because there's so much outdated information where people are so still fearful. The only thing to fear, there are some people for whom these medicines are contraindicated, okay? If you have a certain mental health history, such as a bipolar disorder in yourself or an immediate family member, I always screen. It's really important that people are screened for their mental health history. And as I said, the person that's working with you should really know your mental health history and evaluate you. But there's only a few mental health disorders for which this could be a problem. And then if you're on, antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, that doesn't mean that you can't do plant medicine work. It just means that we might, shift your dosing a little bit in regards to that. But again, the highest safety profile of anything, safer than anything in your bar or medicine cabinet. So here's something that I think is fascinating. Every single one of us, all living beings, sleep. Every night we all sleep. Sleep is a non-ordinary state of consciousness. We are designed to go into non-ordinary states of consciousness because it is in that state that we process all the crazy stuff that goes on during our day. All the psychological, emotional, social, all the things we encounter and deal with, we then go asleep into non-ordinary states of consciousness to put that stuff, to process it and put it away in different drawers and make sense of it. Take a minute and think about that. We are designed to go into non-ordinary states of consciousness because that is where we heal emotionally and psychologically. The other thing I'd like to point out, we are designed to heal. It's built into our system. When you get a cut, new skin grows. After a while, you can't even tell where that cut was. You break a bone, your bone heals. We're designed to heal. Psychedelic medicine helps us access our inner healing intelligence to do what we're already designed to do. Is that amazing? I'm just so excited about this shit. So let me tell you a little tale about my own personal experience and how this has really kind of led me to some of the work that I now do. So a few years ago, the same week I received my certification in psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, I got a breast cancer diagnosis, okay? Didn't see that coming. And I was like, that seems like that can't be a coincidence. Those are two huge life events happening to me in the exact same week. And I'm, a hippie at heart, so I was like, ooh, that means something. So the first thing I did was go home and take 5 grams of mushrooms. Now, not with a brand new cancer diagnosis. I didn't know if I was like coming, going, like I had no clue what was ahead of me. And you want to talk about dancing with the devil and facing your fears. I mean, half the time on the trip I was like, whoa, is this like real? Did I really just get diagnosed with cancer? But I got this profound download of information that my cancer was fear turned cellular, that I had some patterns of fear-based thinking that I really needed to change. I got this information about how this was ancestral trauma through the line of women in my family. And I really got information about what I could be doing on a psycho-spiritual, energetic level for my healing. I knew the doctors could, cut my boobs off, do the whole thing, but now I knew what I could do. Now, whether, some super medical model person might say to me, oh, well, that was just your brain, that was just, I don't care what it was. You know what it did for me? It gave me a sense of meaning making. It made me feel empowered. It gave me something I could be doing. It really informed this whole other psycho-spiritual part of my healing journey. So one of the things that came through on my mushroom journey was, and we people that do lots of mushrooms will say things like this, the mushrooms told me. Well, they did. The mushrooms told me to go into the wilderness and find healing water and bathe my body in healing water to prepare for what was to come. So my husband, who's here with me, we have a van. We hopped in our van. We headed to the wilderness. We didn't know where we were going. We headed to Utah. We got somewhere. I said it was starting to get late in the day. I said, just turn down that road. Honest to God, we didn't know where we were. Turn down the road. The camp guy goes, I got one spot left. It's perfect for your van. We took the spot. We said, is there any hiking here? He goes, yeah, but it's getting late in the day, you shouldn't go. We're like, ah, screw it. We start walking down this like canyon, right? Everybody's walking out, they're going, hey, you shouldn't go now, it's gonna get dark. And we're like, it's okay. We keep going. This is where we landed. This is Lower Calf Falls, if anybody's been to Utah. We did not know this was there. We had no clue this was there. Okay, the mushrooms told me to go into the wilderness and find healing water. We get there, we have this all to ourselves. All to ourselves. I swear to God, I like burst into tears. I'm like, oh my God, this is my healing water. I stripped down, butt naked, jumped in that water, bathed my body like the mushrooms told me, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my certificate in psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. I need to take this and work with other women with cancer, not just at end of life, not just way down the road, but early in a diagnosis, really early, to figure out like all these magical things that you can be doing for your own healing. So that was truly, to this day, one of probably the most incredible experiences I ever had, was stumbling upon that water. I don't even know, I get like, it was incredible. And then I went back, and sure enough, I had like a full double mastectomy, the whole 9 yards. I'm telling all my cancer doctors all about this. They're looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, you need to listen to me, because this is gonna be coming in the future, and you need to like understand what I'm telling you. So that started me on this path, and I now lead twice a year. I do free retreats for women with cancer as part of my give back. And it is because not only is are the mushrooms medicine, but the connection is medicine, and there's so much power in that. And so I lead, these beautiful, really small, safe, and soulful retreats for women with cancer, and try to share that gift that the mushrooms gave me for how to walk that journey. So I'm gonna share with you a couple of other stories. That was my story, but I have had the honor to bear witness and be part of and facilitate some incredible, incredible healing with people with this medicine. And I really want to bring this to life by sharing a few stories with you. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to share a couple of my stories. I have permission from my clients to share these tales. A woman recently came to me after she had lost her 2-year-old to cancer. So she had been in the grips of depression, barely able to like breathe or get out of bed for 3 years. And she came to me, and I tried traditional therapy for 3 years, but I was still feeling daily panic attacks and lots of anxiety. It was impacting my relationship and ability to live a happy life. This journey allowed me to connect with my son and my grandmother. I was able to let go of all I was holding on to that didn't serve me, and I experienced a great sense of peace and calm almost immediately. It's been a month since my journey, and I'm yet to feel panic attacks. Instead, I feel completely filled with my son's love and light. I am forever grateful. So she came to me. She did her journey under a quilt she had made that was all patches of her little 2-year-old's clothing. I mean, oh, right? When she fell into the mushroom space, about 4 hours of being on this journey, she immediately was in the presence of her 2-year-old, who shared with her why he was only here for a short period of time, that he had come to bring her and her husband together, that was his main purpose, and he let her know where he was on the other side, and he said, anytime you want to feel close to me, he's like, remember when you and Daddy were dancing to that song, and he like reminded her of something that she didn't even know she was pregnant at the time, you know, and he reminded her of this thing. He's like, that's when I was first, this little spark of light in you. He's like, now I want you, anytime you look at a sunset or a sunrise, I want you to feel me and think of me, because I am just that spark of light that is still in you. So she gave me this lovely quote, and I asked her if I could turn it into a little social media thing. And she said, sure. So I just Googled, all I put in the Google search bar for images, all I put was mother and young son. That's it. That's all I put in the Google search bar. This image came up. I used it for the quote. And then I sent it to her, and I said, you know, I thought I'd show you the quote I made. She goes, I don't remember sending you that picture. I said, you didn't send me this picture. Okay, this looks exactly like her. She's got a big old thick curl, and she lives in Florida, and the kid told her, her son told her, look for me in the sun, right? She goes, no, I sent you that picture. I said, no, I Googled, this was something I found on the internet. And then she sent me almost the exact same picture. Like, I get goosebumps when I tell you this. I can't make this shit up, excuse me. This is the picture, and then she's crying, and I'm crying, and there is something going on with these medicines that can only be called, okay, remember, I'm like a trained therapist. I've been a therapist for 30 years. This is psycho-spiritual work. This is something more that, you know, hardcore scientists will never be able to map out. We are in the realm of spirit and soul. That's just it. That's just it. So anyway, that was that story. This is another one. A woman came to me, she lost her only son to fentanyl. She found him in his bedroom. She also had been just crippled, debilitated by her grief, unable to get out of bed for years, a couple of years. This is her quote that she said, the transformative impact of the treatment on my well-being was both immediate and remarkable. Before this, I found myself in the throes of severe depression following the tragic loss of my only son. I tried all the conventional antidepressants with no success for 2 years, and my journey led me to Colorado, albeit with reservations. Nevertheless, the outcome of the treatment was astonishing, surpassing any expectations I might have harbored. I am deeply thankful for this intelligent medicine and for Heather for providing this treatment. So this woman is incredibly bright. She is a scientist, she is just brilliant, and her son, who died of fentanyl, was probably a little bit on the spectrum, but also like brilliant. On her journey, she immediately encountered her son, who started downloading with her information about how the universe works. She said to me as we were processing it, I don't know what to tell you. I was suddenly understanding like quantum physics. Like I was getting these insights about how the universe works, and it was so, like I was like just exploding with like just these amazing, and doing it all with my son. We were like dancing together, having his insights, and he was like, oh my God, this is how the universe works. And we got to share it joyfully together. And then she said to him, I'm just so sad I didn't have more pictures of you, and I didn't ever get to see you grow old. And she said he started going like this and shooting Polaroids at her of him as he got older. And she got to see what he looked like as he got older. Again, I get goosebumps when I tell these stories. This is true stuff. Do you see why I like to come and talk about this? I mean, it's really amazing. It's amazing and powerful. And by doing these talks, by talking to all of you, I'm hoping to engender in you passion to spread the word, because the ripple effect, we need to make these medicines available to more people, because this is healing people. This is not putting a bandage on something. This is healing people at a deep, meaningful soul level. Okay, another one. I hope you're good with, I have lots of tales. Okay, and they're also amazing. So I actually am writing a book about all these tales because they're so amazing. So I had this other woman come to me, and she'd been she was in her 40s. When she was 10, her mother was murdered in front of her. She'd spent her whole adult life in therapy. She had tried every kind of therapy, and she said, I've really done a lot of the work. I'm really kind of have moved through that trauma, but there's some little piece of it I just feel like I just can't let go of. I don't know what it is. There's something I just still eating at me. And she said, I don't know about this mushroom thing, but let's give it a shot. So she does a large dose journey with me. And she said to me before she went in, she goes, look, I'm kind of a naysayer. So the mushrooms, if they're gonna give me a sign, they're gonna have to give me a really friggin' loud sign. And I said, okay. So she does her mushrooms. And again, please, you see why I work in service of the mushrooms? This is not me doing this stuff. This is the mushrooms and people's own inner healing intelligence doing this stuff. And then I'm just helping them work with this stuff. So she goes on her journey, she comes out, she's cracking up during her journey. And she comes out and we're processing. I'm like, you were laughing a lot. What was going on? She goes, oh my God. I told the mushrooms to give me a really loud sign. And she goes, and I couldn't find it. She goes, there was a neon sign and it said, forget. A neon sign. And she goes, but I could feel my mother's hands on my shoulders. I could smell her, I remember her smell. I could tell it was her. And she whispered in my ear, forgive. And I realized in that moment, the one piece I didn't unlock was that I had been so angry at my mother for leaving me. But nobody ever let me explore that emotion, being pissed at my mother who got murdered. But that was the piece. She needed to forgive her mother for getting murdered. I didn't do that. The mushrooms did that. Her inner healing intelligence did that. And this woman was transformed and healed and released from that, right? It's amazing. Okay, I got another one. You can't make this shit up. I got so excited to tell you because I got to tell somebody. So this other woman came to me and she had severe health anxiety, serious OCD like nobody's business. And I am also an anxiety treatment disorder specialist, so I know anxiety. This woman couldn't put anything in her mouth. It would have to go if she wanted a cracker, she'd have to dump the cracker onto a paper towel on her hand and eat it like that. I mean, it was inhibiting her ability to live a normal life. So she was just, it was really hard for her to even drink the tea because she's like, who touched the mushrooms? Is this jar clean? I mean, really, really, really crippling stuff. So she is deep in it, and she had some little lozenges next to her bed in case her mouth got dry. And all of a sudden, while she's behind her eye mask, I hear her saying to me, give me a lemon drop, give me a lemon drop. So I open the lemon drop and I'm thinking, oh my God, well, how do I give it to her? Because she's really uptight about that. And she just grabs it out of my hand, puts it in her mouth. So then she goes, I don't want it. She takes my hand, she spits it out into my hand. Just a couple of minutes later, she licks the thing out of my hand. And I'm like, whoa. And then I've never seen somebody so orally fixated, during a therapy session. This woman was putting in and out of her mouth, oh no, I want that. No, I do want it. No, I don't want it. Yeah, I do want it. I was and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this is exposure therapy on psilocybin. The mushrooms know. And they're doing exposure therapy with her while her brain's in this super neuroplastic state. She is rewiring her brain doing this. It was crazy. And then she came out of the mushroom journey, we're processing it, and she's going, did I lick your hand? I'm like, yeah. She's like, did I put you in my mouth? I'm like, yeah. And she was and I just checked in with her, and it's been 2 months. And she went from probably if 10 is the highest on your anxiety, she's like, I'm not totally better, but I am down to a 6 from a 10. She said, I can, she had gotten to the point she couldn't kiss her husband because she was afraid of germs. She was like, I can kiss my husband again. I'm sorry, I will take that as a win. as a win. So this one to me was so fascinating because, as I said, I work with OCD and anxiety disorders, that I actually found a researcher in Chicago who's researching psilocybin for exposure therapy, doing exposure therapy with people on psilocybin, because that is exactly what was going on. It wasn't planned, it's just what went down, and I was like, wow, that was powerful. So what is going on when people are on psilocybin and all this is happening? This is your brain on drugs, people. It's not an egg in a frying pan. This is your brain on drugs, okay? Full-blown neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is when all these parts of your brain that don't ordinarily talk to each other suddenly can talk to each other. Like suddenly you have the capacity for new insights, new awareness, building new neural networks, new neural pathways. This is what Michael Pollan talks about, rewiring your brain. You're literally building new neural pathways. So when you're in that super neuroplastic state, some people will experience, I always forget this. Help me out, what's the word? Synthesis. Psychosynthesis. No, psychosynthesis? What's the word? Does anybody know the word I'm trying to think of?
Synesthesia.
Synesthesia. That's the word, thank you. Synesthesia is when your brain is so neuroplastic, all these parts talk that don't usually talk, so you can maybe like smell sounds, taste colors, right? So things like that can happen on psilocybin. And so when you're in this highly neuroplastic state, you also have increased emotional and psychological flexibility. So you have the ability to process something that you maybe experienced one way emotionally. You can now be in a little bit of a different state and experience it differently, put it back in a different drawer, so to speak. So you have that emotional and psychological flexibility, which is really, really beneficial for resilience and for wiring our brains to be healthy and resilient. So all of these things that you can imagine are good for aging brains, right? This is all really healthy stuff for our brains as we age. So I like to refer to it as aging and saging with psychedelics. So there are geroprotective and neuroprotective benefits of psilocybin. That means that there are lots of ways that this...
I mean, never underestimate your soul. Never. I mean, that's the immortal part. It's never going to
atrophy, she says. You're never too old to do a psychedelic journey. Okay, this is a guest that came on one of my retreats. She flew in from Chicago. She was 81 years old. When I was interviewing her, quote unquote, she says to me, "Oh, honey, I've been a card-carrying bohemian my whole life, but I've never done the psychedelics. But I'm ready, and I've got to come, and I want to do this with you." So she flew in and did our retreat, and I am so excited that I got that little video clip of her. You're never too old to do a psychedelic journey, never. And she told me, she said, if I can know when my time to pass is, I need you to come be at my bedside, and I'd like to do some psilocybin. So anyway, so some of the ways that this protects our brains and is good for the geroprotective and neuroprotective qualities. So that neuroplasticity, gives us the ability to form new neural connections, right? So instead of our brains starting to shrink and recede, we can actually continue to grow our brains and have new, more enhanced brain capacity, enhanced cognitive function. The reduction of anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression actually takes a toll physiologically on our brains, so this also protects our brain health. Alleviation of chronic stress, which also can be bad for cognitive function. And there are anti-inflammatory effects for psilocybin, and we all know that inflammation is, no bueno for many, many, many things. And again, as I had spoken to, the enhanced emotional resilience and well-being, which really also helps us as we age. So lots of research going on right now on psilocybin for aging brains, for dementia, for Alzheimer's, for people who have had TBIs and different brain injuries. I mean, there's just so much research on the benefits, the health benefits. There's not a lot of, remember, highest safety profile, not a lot of the other side of the thing that they're finding in the research, just a lot of really, really good benefits. But it's all about the integration. So it's not just like eat the mushrooms and they do the thing, right? We live in a culture where pharmaceuticals have sold us all these things that you pop the pill and the pill does the thing. That's not how it works with psychedelic medicine. With psilocybin, you are working symbiotic relationship. You're working together with the medicine, and it's really vital that on the flip side of this journey where all this wisdom comes through and you get these downloads, you've got to work with that. You've got to honor that information, like honor those insights, right? This is a sacred experience that you've gifted yourself. So you want to honor the insights. You want to really make sure that you create these new neural pathways by changing whatever are the outdated patterns of belief or thought or behavior. Doing the meaning making with what comes up, and then utilizing this new psychological and emotional flexibility. It's really important to work with, and there's, now there's a whole specialty in mental health that there are people who are integration specialists. Laura has a whole team of people that are, it's really important that if you're doing this medicine, you're doing it with people who understand how to do the integration piece. Because again, this isn't recreational use. I mean, there's a place for that too. But this is more intentional clinical therapeutic where you really want to use the material for your healing. And another lovely thing that's coming up with this medicine, I think, it's bringing us back into connection with each other, having really conscious conversations. Meaningful connections. It's reintroducing into our culture ritual and ceremony. We are so devoid of that, and it's such a beautiful thing. So, when I do my retreats, and most people that work with the medicine, there's an element of ritual and ceremony. I mean, even in the Johns Hopkins studies, even in, on the clinical research centers, you'll look at the rooms, and they're trying to create, there's a candle lit. There's the element of ceremony and ritual, again, because we're talking about work with our spirits and our souls. And it's also helping, so that element of the sacred, but it's also bringing us back into connection with awe and wonder. And I know you all know, there's so much research going on, like in Berkeley, and that sense of awe enhances our immune function, enhances our longevity. We've all gotten some sort of numb to life. These medicines bring us back into connection with each other and with nature in such a beautiful and amazing way. So one of my favorite researchers in the psychedelic space is a guy named Sam Gandy. Does anybody know Sam Gandy's work? Sam Gandy is an ecologist turned psychedelic researcher. And all of his work is at the intersection of ecology and psychedelics, in particular psilocybin. And he did some work where he took some of the world's top climate scientists who are experiencing severe eco-anxiety and existential distress. I mean, they're watching what's going on with a lens that none of us, that is their lens. And so he did some work with this one researcher who, on her journey, she encountered this polar bear who was on this little dwindling piece of ice crying, and she felt this incredible sadness for him. But then with it came this compassion and this connection of heart and this sort of recognition of that the world is billions of years old, and even if everything shifts, there will be a next chapter, even though we may not be able to see it. And they had this heartfelt moment together, and that's the kind of work this guy Sam Gandy. Look up his work; it's amazing. So that's his little niche. So I'm so honored to be a part of this psychedelic renaissance, and Lisa Ling. Do y'all know Lisa Ling of CBS? So Lisa Ling called me after the MAPS conference because she had spoken to some people who knew of me, and they said, you need to talk to Heather. So Lisa Ling calls me, and I'm on the phone with Lisa Ling, who's kind of a big deal, but I've never met her. And Lisa Ling says to me, I'm thinking of doing a piece on moms that microdose. And I say to Lisa Ling, oh, that's not the story. I said, the story is we're like the moms of the moms, and we're mega dosing. And she's like, oh, you're right. That is a way better story. So I said, well, come to Colorado. I'll put together a little retreat. You can film it, and and she goes, oh my God, I love it. Absolutely. So she flew to Colorado, and I put a retreat together, a little retreat, and this is what came together. And again, I'm not sure I did this or the mushrooms or whatever, but I'm a hippie and I believe in bigger, what can I tell you? This is what happened, I don't even know how. The people that called me before they even knew I was working with Lisa Ling was a mom, the grandmother, the 2 daughters in their 20s, and this full Native American girl. That's who came to be on the Lisa Ling special. 3 generations of women. So we got intergenerational healing and ancestral healing with this other lovely Native American gal who came on the retreat. The youngest daughter had really severe anxiety, and which was what precipitated the family coming together, because she said, I really want to try this psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. You know, I really know that Heather does good work, but I'm kind of afraid to do it alone. And the next thing you know, the mom's like, well, I'll do it with you. And grandma's kind of curious. And so, yeah, so they did it together. And the youngest daughter, whose anxiety was crippling, I mean, she is this beautiful young thing, the one second to the end here. Her anxiety was so bad, she would sit in the parking lot of hospitals whenever she had free time, because she just was sure that at any moment she could have some major medical crisis. There's nothing wrong with her, but that's not what her brain was telling her. Her anxiety was telling her, you are about to have go into some, and you better be at the emergency room, okay? Really severe. On the mushrooms, suddenly, okay, I'm telling you, the first half hour was really rough for her. I mean, she was gripping my hand, she was terrified, and then all of a sudden, she released my hand and starts cracking up. And when we processed it, she goes, oh my God, I suddenly just saw how totally ridiculous my anxiety makes me. But she got an embodied sense of that. Not a talky talk like in talk therapy, like, oh, well, that's really, let's look at it from a different perspective, like talk. No, she had this embodied experience of, wow, that's crazy. And she started cracking up. Okay, her anxiety, again, scale of 1 to 10, used to be a 10. I'm doing a reunion with them next Friday. She says she's at a 4 now. She's her life back. She's her life back. And the Native American gal who was in it, okay, she said, she goes, well, on my journey, my grandmother came to me, and my grandmother's this very stern little old woman, and she was shaking her finger at me going, you need to pay attention and take this seriously. This is how we heal. And as she's telling that, the mom, who was in a whole different part of the house during this retreat, goes, whoa, wait. Does she look like this? And describes her and goes, she shook her finger at me too. Right? I mean, woo-hoo. So that was this, I don't know, did any of you see the CBS special?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Oh, right, that's how we connected, I think. But anyway, it's on my website if you care to see the whole, it was like, you know, a 30-minute piece that she did, and I was really honored to be part of her special on Psychedelic Renaissance. So psychedelics are finding their way into the mainstream conversation as well. Here the cover of Vogue, the cover of Condé Nast Traveler, talking about psychedelic wellness retreats. I just spoke at a conference in London, which was the Global Spa and Wellness Conference, on how psychedelics are going to find their way into the wellness conversation. Because they are, just like other ancient healing traditions, sauna, temazcals, these things, I always say that word wrong, have all become sort of part of our wellness rituals. I believe that there's a place for psychedelics in the wellness conversation, in helping us just do a reset, just shift up our perspective. I know I journey, 2 to 3 times a year, just to kind of like get myself back to center, get my emotional and psychological balance. So I work with this medicine clinically with people that have like issues, anxiety, depression, OCD, but there's also a place for this just for exploring our personal growth and development. And that's what I think these magazine covers speak to. So, I have some retreats that I do that are just specifically by women, for women, that introduce women to the soul and science of psilocybin. So here are a couple of quotes just to kind of bring my talk to a close. Paul Stamets is one of the leading mycologists out there. I'll let someone, you want to read those for me?
Oh yeah, the psilocybin experience can help us access parts of ourselves that are normally hidden from view. And then that's Paul Stamets. Psilocybin can help us break down the barriers between ourselves and others and foster a sense of empathy and compassion. Catherine McLean. Psychedelics are a way to tap into the universal consciousness and experience oneness with all things. Alex Gray.
These are beautiful and powerful sacred healing medicines. That's not to say that sometimes the journey can be challenging and difficult, as is life, but done in the right setting, with the right guides, with the right support, these are really amazing medicines for soul healing. And it is my honor to talk to you about this today. Thank you, and I am excited to open it up for conversation and to hear some of your thoughts and your questions, and I hope that I have both educated and inspired you today.